This is a St. Jude moment.
Ashton was a high-level athlete, and in an instant, your world flips. And your healthy 5-year-old competitive cheerleader has a brain tumor. And the physician was like, your best option is St. Jude. Receiving treatment that was life-saving for our child and knowing that that treatment would be of no cost to us was a huge weight lifted.
Learn more at stjude.org.
Side of everything. And Steve Wolf, nice to see you. Mr. Lurks-a-lot, thank you for joining us. And who else? Papa Willie, always a pleasure to have the bodyguard here. Nicola, good to see you. Apollo 11, the gorgeous Jan, how are you? The stunning Cosmic Fleur has returned home. All right, who else do we have here as we're running out of time on the roll call? Jeff Steve Garvey, he'll hit a home run for you. Travis DeLuca, where you been hiding? Good to have you back. And let's see here. Susan Go, nice to have you here. Michael Gutierrez, thanks for coming on in. And the Jordan Heath, how you doing? Welcome to our channel. Thank you for coming on in. And SJ, good to see you, buddy. Bob Berkins, nice to have you here. And let's see here. Who's this? Parts Unknown, the Mass President. What's going on? Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. All right. We got about 30 seconds here. The gorgeous Pinzer Flactum has returned. Stevie Franchise, good to see you. And anybody else? The Quick. Always a pleasure. Phil Minervino, good to see you. Super Chat is open. It is a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Remember, we also have the website where we have all of our swag to hang out. And hey, gorgeous Larry, Peppa H, good to see you guys. Boz Monster, thanks for coming on in. Horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, and check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight as we head into the stars, looking for them elusive TR3B's. Darcy Weir, independent filmmaker, and the legendary James Goodall are here with us. We'll bring them in momentarily. Then in hour number 3, we're going to go to the swamp for another great story from Swamp Dweller. Bigfoot Michigan Rob fills in on the Bigfoot Report. And we got Shirky Poo's News and the Thought of the Day. Tonight, we talk a little bit about what is flying in our skies. Where does it come from? Where do they go? Where do they land? Are they ours or are they theirs? And who are they? Darcy Weir is a Canadian independent filmmaker, good guy from the Vancouver area, now living in Mexico because, well, let's just face it, it's nicer in Mexico at this time of year, has brought out a really awesome new documentary film called TR3B. And when you go into the aviation side of everything, there's only one man you need to talk to, and that is Jim Goodall. Yes, the legendary aviation author is here with us tonight as we discuss this really weird phenomena of the black triangles. Darcy Weir, Jim Goodall, welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. How are you guys?
What's up?
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm good. How about you, Jim?
I've never been better. I always look forward to talking with Dave and Spaced Out Radio.
Let's get spaced out.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Gentlemen, we got 2 hours. Everybody kind of knows who you are, so I'm going to kind of skip the introductions here as we normally do on the show and get right into it. TR3B's, Darcy, I mean, when you pick a topic, man, you pick good topics to cover in the UFO world, because I know I have seen a couple of them. I know friends of mine who have seen them, and I'll tell you, these are the one spaceship, UFO, UAP, whatever you want to call them, that really seem to trigger people, man.
Yeah. I think UFOs of any kind, whether it's a TR3B or a ET craft, if you believe it, will trigger most people. Take you right out of your body. The TR3B, if people sort of don't know what it is by now, if they haven't listened to another one of my shows I've been on in the past 2 months with good old Jim here, good old Jim Goodall. A TR3B is supposedly a craft that may have made its maiden flight in 1979, could have been operational during the 1980s and the early 90s. There's no reason that it might not be operational right now. But basically, it was a space platform, a massive black triangular ship. If somebody's seen the film The Eternals, not that it was a great film, but the ship that the Eternals flew in, this massive black triangle, that's kind of like what the TR3B has been fabled to be like. It was something that massive amounts of personnel could live in, and they could also carry cargo to space, large amounts of it. And it supposedly had an anti-gravitic type engine, which is it was a magnetic field disruptor. So MFD was the center-based engine, and it used a superferrofluid rotating mercury superconductor, and this was a mercury-based solution that was supercooled, I guess, to turn it back into a solid, and it was rotated at an incredible speed. This would create an 80% anti-gravitic effect, so it would reduce the weight of an object up to 80%, and then apparently on each corner of the TR3B was a more conventional thruster, a thruster that was used that used hydrogen. To hydrogen combustion to find that extra thrust and probably some directional motion. And so, that is what the story is for the TR3B. What people have been seeing since then could be anything, really. The story of the TR3B is, a big one, and it got blown up in the late 90s by Edgar Rothschild Fouché, who was touring, doing lecture tours, and guy said he worked at Area 51, and he was, part of the operation building the TR3B there, and he just knew some really interesting stuff that is actually out there in the general public now. For example, he knew about metamaterials, which weren't well documented. He knew about quasi-crystals. He lectured on those. And he knew about this MFD, this crazy magnetic field disruptor that was supposedly an anti-gravitic engine to the space plane, and it was supposed to be in space. The MFD is related to something that's been out in science for a while now, which is called a rotating superconductor, which Ning Li, a famous Chinese physicist, Eugene Podklanov, Dr. Eugene Podklanov, who's a famous Russian physicist. And actually, if you go to my Facebook page, a month after I published this documentary, the BBC did a free YouTube documentary talking with Eugene Podklanov about this anti-gravity space plane that they were building in secret. So I'm not saying that I, am some kind of like psychic here or something, but I was onto something, and it seems like this type of theory is not too far-fetched. I'm pretty sure we did build something like the TR3B. It might not actually have been named the TR3B, but we all know the TR3A was manufactured by Northrop Grumman, and that supposedly did its maiden flight in top secretly in the Gulf War, and it was used as a laser targeting system for smart bombs when they were attacking. That is well documented, and I showed the Popular Mechanics article and stuff in the documentary. But the TR3B is supposed to be the fabled anti-gravitic craft that we built, and we would have built that based off of reverse engineered alien technology that we were observing and testing and trying to get to work with our own crude efforts. And
Right.
I think the TR3B was that original crude effort. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the videos we see on YouTube channels like Tyler Glockner's Secure Team 10 or on, I won't even name those idiots, but I'm allowed to say idiots, right? That's not a swear word, Dave.
No. I mean, how do you really feel? I mean, let's just be honest.
Yeah, I'm not going to name the twin idiots. But, if you see those flying triangles, I bet you anything, they're actually something that is an evolved version of the TR3B. They're, borrowing the same sort of form and function and advanced technology that we were testing in the black. And, they're still out there. I've got lots of footage showing these things in space. I think that they are active still, and I think there have been possibly either autonomous drone-like missions with black craft that go into space, or maybe there have been manned missions, but that is super hush-hush, and we may never know.
I want to bring Jim Goodall in here. For people who do not know, he is the leading civilian and probably the most knowledgeable civilian on the SR-71 and the A-12 Oxcart aircraft that flew secretly for a few decades, and he is also known as the first civilian to ever capture a picture of an F-117 stealth fighter. Black Ops aircraft are his specialty. And Jim, thank you so much for coming on in. It is always a pleasure when you are on our airwaves.
I'm always delighted to talk with you. You're one of my favorite guys.
Yeah, you're getting your check later. But thank you.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, my friend. When you hear of these TR3Bs, you were good friends with Ben Rich back in the '90s. You have your fingers in the pulse on a lot of black projects, and I know from conversations you and I have had privately that there are times when some special people may even come up to you and say, "Hey, what do you know about this?" I mean, this is a plane or an aircraft or a UFO that people have seen all over the United States, all over Canada. In fact, the lower mainland of British Columbia, from Vancouver all the way to Hope, seems to be a hotbed for black triangle sightings. I mean, what do you think this is?
I mean, Lockheed Skunk Works, and they call Air Force Plant 42 in Palmdale their home now. They moved out of Burbank. they haven't been sitting idly by. There's 4,500 to 6,500 people at Palmdale at their facility Monday through Friday, and they're not building replacement panels for the F-35 or the F-22, or even the still flying F-117. And anything, now when they announced the existence of my favorite airplane, the A-12, it had been retired for 20 years. Anything that we're going to see, anything that's rolled out as, this is the leading edge, state of the art, it's probably 15 to 20-year-old technology, and we're working on something much better. I mean, they're already saying that there's a sixth generation prototype fighter flying out of Area 51. Now, maybe when the group is in Vegas, we can get a view, maybe, of something like that. But things, I mean, nothing is static. It's you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. And the Skunk Works has never been accused of not being at the leading edge of the spear. I mean, they're tip of the spear. They're the ones who develop things in record time that people say can't be done. I mean, the P-80, first operational jet fighter, 143 days from signing a contract to first flight. And when they built and designed the SR-71 family, starting with the A-12, YF-12, up to the SR-71, from signing a contract to first flight was 32 months. The Air Force can't change the paint scheme in a C-130 today in 32 months. So anything that they say, hey, we got this, we have that, it's probably very old technology. And we're dealing with something more spectacular and more out of this world, literally.
Now, do you believe, Jim, that these are alien-type craft? Or do you believe that these TR3B's are homemade here on Earth?
They have all the appearance of being a terrestrial-built craft, something that was built here in the good old United States. Maybe even some help from the Canadians, but I don't know. Is that right, Darcy? So, I mean, the first time I saw the F-117, I thought it was a flying saucer. I mean, it looked like it was changing shape. The first time I saw a Blackbird, I was 18 years old. It was March 10th, 1964. That thing was so far beyond what I had ever imagined, and I have a pretty wild imagination. So what you see in the skies tonight, what you may see in the skies during the day, if it doesn't look like anything you've seen before, you can't recognize it, it doesn't mean it's alien. It could be something that's flying out of Area 51. And I've been told there is at least one other location now. I haven't been able to find it. But it's supposedly in the extreme northeast corner of Nevada. There's a new super secret base. Tonopah Test Range. When we go out to the fence line on our Sunday trip in April, we'll also go to the fence line at Tonopah Test Range and be able to see the whole facility down there. So the answer is we haven't been sitting still. Technology doesn't just, you go to a certain point and you stop. No, you keep pushing the envelope. So what you see more than likely is man-made. But all it takes is one that isn't. And I believe, well, first of all, I believe Bob Lazar. I've known him forever. And I also believe astronauts. There's a new thing just came out. I think it's Neil Armstrong's son was saying that when his dad was on the moon, said they were being watched by non-humans, little gray men, I guess. He didn't describe the occupants, but he said their craft and their hardware was so far superior to us. It was like equating Wright brothers flyer that they flew in, in 1903 to
The SR-71.
or the space shuttle. I mean, it's just
Quantum leaps in technology.
yes, very much so.
Gentlemen, we have 5 minutes before we go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Darcy Weir and Jim Goodall are here talking about their latest documentary, Secret Space UFOs, Rise of the TR3B. And Darcy, I want to ask you about this because, the TR3B always seems very ominous in the UFO world. We don't know if it's human. We can only assume. We don't know if it's from space or if the aliens have some and we have some and it's shared technology or reverse engineered technology. I mean, how did you get hyped up on this program to do this documentary?
Well, I got hyped up to do it because no one had done a sort of thorough job investigating the lore of the TR3B. I mean, people have discussed it, but I wanted to bring together a bunch of different minds to talk about this aspect of secret space research and UFO activity. And I pulled in Jeremy Reese, alien scientist, on YouTube. He got really close to Edgar Fouché and was able to really give me a backstory on Edgar Fouché like nobody else could. And I pulled in Jim because Jim has all of that secret Air Force history. He is the brain when it comes to what could be possible in terms of our engineering and ingenuity. And I've got Richard Dolan, who is, the absolute historian in terms of the UFO subject. So I think when you ask the question, is the TR3B ours? Yeah, I think the TR3B is. But are there black triangles that are not ours? Absolutely, positively. They do exist, as Dave Fruhoff would probably say. And Jim will probably tell you about Dave Fruhoff when we get back from the break. But I have, pictures and footage of black triangles that, were present over the Earth during the pre-Apollo years before we even went to the moon. And if you believe the story of our TR3B, our black triangle, that only really got active in late 1970s. So, the Apollo space program was canned in the early 70s. So, what are these black triangles that they were seeing in space? I think we emulate what we see. And I think if we were to make a TR3B, it's possible we even had a captured triangle. Although the sports model and the stories that we always hear are the disk. The disk is real alien tech, but there's no reason to believe that aliens don't also have triangles.
Very true, very true. And Jim, with 90 seconds to go on this, I mean, how exciting is it to be involved with a project like this when we get into everything from what Lockheed is hiding to what the secret space program may be hiding, if there is a secret space program?
There's always been a secret space program. And when we first started going into space, we sent up Skylab, but we also sent up, and it was ready to go the MOL, the Manned Orbital Laboratory, and it was basically a manned version of a KH-11 spy satellite with an Apollo capsule or a Gemini capsule attached to it for going to and from space. And as Ann said, how could there not be a space program? I mean, it's whoever controls space controls the world. And that's why the Chinese are working their damnedest. Of course, they just had a big failure here a couple of weeks ago. And the Russians been trying, but we have the space station up there. It's primarily ours, even though we have a lot of people, a lot of countries supporting it. We pay for the 99% of what's up there. And now they're saying, we're going to deorbit it in 2030. That's an asinine statement. You're going to take $4 billion or $10 billion worth of hardware and drop it off in the middle of the Indian Ocean? I don't think so.
Jim, I'm going to get you to hold on right there along with Darcy Weir as we are looking into the TR3B, Secret Space UFOs, Rise of the TR3B. Great title, great documentary from two great guys, Darcy Weir, the filmmaker, Jim Goodall, one of the experts in the documentary. We'll be right back with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio next. All right, guys, remember our YouTube audience can hear us. Darcy, you want me to pull this up?
Yeah, pull it up. We'll do that while we're on the break, or do you want to talk about it when we get back?
We'll save that for the show. We'll save that for the show. So Sure. That'll be a fun one. Yeah.
That'll be real secret space history right there.
One thing there's Darcy, you've indicated that the TR3B may have flown in Desert Storm. And
No, the TR3A.
Okay.
TR3A flew in the Gulf War.
I know a soldier who actually saw one in Iraq in the first Gulf War.
No way.
Okay.
Yeah. Believe it or not, Darcy, the guy who held that conference where you and I met, him
is the soldier. Crazy, really?
Yeah, he saw it. His entire unit.
That's awesome. Well, I didn't know that. You should put me in touch. Does he have any pictures or video?
Unfortunately, no, because they were in kind of he was a medic, and they was right in the combat zone, right?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to hear his story, though. Maybe I can talk with him sometime.
Sure.
He can tell that. But
one of my fun jobs that I had I was in the Pentagon for Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and one of the things I enjoyed the most was going through the previous night's mission profiles, and they listed absolutely every aircraft and their call sign, and it was just. And every message that went to and from CENTCOM, I had a chance to read. And in fact, I had to read it and pull out anything that pertained to the Army or the Air National Guard. But one of the most incredible things I ever read, it was a message from Margaret Thatcher when she was still Prime Minister. And it was to Saddam Hussein. And it said that President Saddam Hussein, Islamic Republic of Baghdad, #1 Main Street. If for some reason you use chemical or biological agents on the coalition forces or your own population, period, spelled out period, the United Kingdom will launch a full-fledged nuclear strike on Baghdad within 24 hours. And every time I think about that message, I get goosebumps. And that's probably the only reason that he did not, and I'm talking about Saddam, did not use any type of chemical, biological, or nuclear agents.
You didn't mess with Marge back in the day.
No.
Marge, she had some real cojones, eh?
Yeah. Yes, she did. She was incredible. That's what England could. Well, actually, Canada could use someone like Margaret Thatcher right now.
I like Trudeau.
Oh, well, you live in Vancouver. You live in
Vancouver. Cut him off
Vancouver.
now. We don't want to talk to him anymore.
Oh my God! What
on.
the hell is wrong with you? If you would have told me that.
Hey, Dave, I like you too. Look at your hair, man. You guys have that in common. You both have this amazing head of hair.
I have a better sock collection than that jerk. Every time,
stop comparing you.
Every time somebody mentions, call him Sock Boy, I sit there and say, "Hey, the socks are innocent. The socks are innocent."
The Sock Boy. The Sock Boy.
God, I think it looks fantastic on him. But I'm going to keep.
How many more years do we have of Trudeau regime?
Well, it all depends. We're in a minority government. I mean, he could get ousted at any time. I don't think he survives this. His own
Really?
party,
I don't see how he could.
His own
I don't
party
see how he
started.
could.
There's members of his own party starting to turn on him
Turn
today.
Crazy.
And the local police in Ottawa finally came to the conclusion that it was a worthless endeavor to try to take propane tanks and diesel fuel and gasoline from the people participating in the protest.
Yeah, did you see what did you see what we did to retaliate? This is how you guys in America, you go burn down buildings and you wreck storefronts.
That is the left that burns down.
Well, whatever.
buildings.
It's still an American. Yeah. It's still an American tradition, much like the 4th of July. Yeah. Okay, but up here, what we do when we get shut down in one part of the protest, we all go to Canadian Tire and buy jerry cans. So that way the police can't check every jerry can as they're walking around to see which one has diesel fuel in it and which ones don't. So if you go look at the footage today, you'll see jerry cans all over the place.
What were they doing with diesel fuel? Sorry,
the Ottawa police were shutting down people delivering diesel fuel to the trucks that are parked there.
Oh, those big old truckers. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Hold on one second, guys. Hi, gorgeous Avi May. Tits McGee is here, everyone, filling in for the vacationing Veronica Corningstone. The lovely Lisa Bartoloni has returned. Nucker, good to see you. Here we go, guys.
Here we go.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on here on Spaced Out Radio with a great documentary that's just come out, Secret Space UFOs, Rise of the TR3B. The film's creator, Darcy Weir, is here, along with aviation expert, historian, and author James Goodall, good friend of this show. Gentlemen, welcome back. Really appreciate you coming on in. And you know what, Darcy, let's start with you on this one, because when you start to put something this controversial and conspiratorial together, I mean, how do you go about finding the information outside of anecdotal stories regarding this potential human craft that we know as a black triangle?
Well, we just have to look at the data, right? The data does not lie is pretty much the best way to go about making any of these documentaries. I looked at evidence in the public that we've been producing triangular crafts, and I started building a case around that. And, we kind of went back to the YB-49, which is the first rocket-propelled jet engine flying boomerang, pretty much. And this came out in 1948. So that was built by Northrop Grumman. And there's always two big companies that constantly get rumored about throughout the UFO community as being behind some kind of UFO activity, and those are Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works and Northrop Grumman. Lockheed Martin Skunk Works has built the B-2 bomber, the Have Blue, the F-117, and all kinds of other triangular craft. Those are all based off of jet fuel, but if we just use a little bit of imagination. I mean, in 2009, or was it 2008, the Navy filed a patent for an anti-gravitic black triangle. You can look that up. It's It's out there. Just Google it. The patent is there. I included in the documentary. That is not a TR3B, but it looks so much like what people have been seeing for years. So it seems that we've been building stuff, and many different, probably enemy nations like Russia, well, let's not call them enemies, many other competing nations like Russia and China have probably been trying to build their own black triangles. And maybe some of the stuff we have seen has been that. But, yeah, I think once you build or collect a bunch of data that is very historical and anchored in fact, then you can start talking to people. And I wanted to talk to Jim. Jim is a wealth of knowledge on the reality of a secret space program, on the reality of a aerospace secrecy program. And then, you know, I had Jack Kasher in the doc. Dr. Jack Kasher worked for NASA, and he saw a lot of evidence that UFOs were buzzing around in space, around the planet. And he wrote a physics paper based off of this. And he was very interested in this, but NASA shut him down every move he made to prove it as something legitimate. And yeah, I interview even Tyler Glockner, who's, you know, a massive speculator and researcher on the secrecy of UFOs and secret space activity. You know, he's my friend, I'd say. I'm friends with all kinds of people, and I think he's a good dude. I think a lot of people have given him flack over the years. I think a lot of that is based on jealousy and people forgetting that we all make mistakes and that we're all human and nobody's perfect. And everybody deserves to be treated like a normal human being, you know? Not like if you have flaws, then you're thrown out, you're burned, you're canceled. I can't stand that behavior. But yeah, I also interviewed Richard Dolan. He is interested in the TR3B phenomenon. He's interested in the Black Triangle phenomenon. He's interested in history and UFOs, and he's firmly grounded in data and what we can prove. And really, you know, whenever you watch my documentaries, you're watching me, because it's my flow of conscience, my writing, my editing, and I want people to understand this is how I think about this subject. And I think some people are with me, not against me.
Well, you know what? Let's continue with the documentary in regards to, you know, the filming of this. I mean, Darcy, were you able to accumulate any potential real footage of TR3B's in the documentary?
Yeah. I'll tell you one real big footage that came my way, one big video clip that exhibits all of the supposed characteristics of what a TR3B is. Alara, I always mess up her name. She's got her own YouTube channel. You guys should check it out. Alara Foot N5D. Alara, let me just look this up real quick because I'm a dumbass. 1 foot. Alara 1 foot N5D. She is amazing. She is totally dedicated to researching UFOs and has had her own experience with a UFO up close and personal. And when she went to Contact in the Desert in 2019, she went to a CE5 event that was happening out one night after the conference. What's this guy breaking bagels? Does Darcy like breakfast for dinner? Yes, of course I does like it. But I'd have eggs Benny, man. Eggs Benny all the way.
You're
Benedict.
an ill man.
Sorry.
You were an ill man eating breakfast foods for dinner.
Let me get back to this story. So Alara went to contact in the desert, and she went to this outdoor event where they were all trying to summon UFOs or have some kind of contact. And when they were out there, they looked up above the field, and there were all these really strange, trippy, what looked like butterfly UFOs. Kind of like that little logo, Spaced Out Radio on the top right there. But these butterfly UFOs were flying overhead, and people were totally freaking out. They thought it was amazing. For whatever reason, Alara was kind of not into it anymore. She said there was a military presence, which was really strange. And she went back to her car, drove back to the hotel she was staying at down the road. And she wasn't staying that far away. When she got back to her hotel, she could still see where that field was down the road. And she could not see with her own naked eye what was over top of that field, but she took out her camera, which is on her phone, and she recorded a video of that exact place, and right above the field was a massive triangle, possibly two, strangely enough, if you look at the footage. All of the same sort of characteristics you see in the triangle. You have one sort of light in the middle, and then you have a light on each corner. And people always say, hey, if this is a stealth craft, why would they put lights on the bottom? Well, keep this in mind. She could not see it, and all those people were tripping out seeing these butterfly UFOs. And meanwhile, this massive black triangle was there in reality. So that's stealth. But the camera could pick up the image of this. And this is what we hear about the TR3B. You know, we hear that it had stealth, it had cloaking technology, and we are always seeing online these days these black triangles that people are recording on their phones or on their regular cameras that many people, many experiencers have said they couldn't see with their naked eye, but the camera could pick it up. Or they could barely see it, or they could sense it, and they decided to record in that direction. And I think another thing that's really cool with Lara is that she has a sense for these things, and that's why she intuitively thought, okay, I'm going to record this video because I feel like something's over there. Yeah, I think, you know, if you look into the story of the TR3B, if you look into the story of what's possible with, you know, even Jim, talk to him about active camouflage, and has the military been using that sort of stuff for many years? It's very possible that what she recorded was a TR3B. I don't know if it was alien craft, but something tells me if it was an alien craft, you know, there would be military buzzing around it trying to shoot it down. And I think we have really sophisticated radar tracking and you know, defense systems now that keep the ETs away.
Peacock streaming the biggest sporting events, exclusive originals, and the latest movies. This February, we've got Super Bowl 56, the 2022 Winter Olympics, and the Peacock original Bel Air. Plus the new movie Marry Me in theaters and streaming Valentine's Day. Sign up now at peacocktv.com.
That's my opinion, but I think we're at a point in time in history where we've really locked down this planet. There's no reason that they're not out there in space. That might be more their domain. Maybe we secretly have more domain in space. But yeah, I think that was a really authentic video of a TR3B.
Jim, I want to bring you in here for a moment, and thank you, Darcy, for that great answer. But the secret space program ties into this. And there are many different facets of the secret space program, from specialized aircraft to even going as far as people like Randy Kramer claiming that they're 20-in-backs, where they took TR3B's from the moon over to Mars, spent 20 years on Mars, and then came back. I mean, where do we draw the line on what is real and what isn't regarding the secret space program?
Well, I mean, I will quote my dear friend who's since passed away, Ben R. Rich. At the time, he was Kelly Johnson's right-hand man, and when Kelly retired, Ben took over heading up the Skunk Works. He was president and general manager of the Lockheed Advanced Development Programs, which is the Skunk Works. And Ben told on several occasions, Ben mentioned in, I think it was 1993, shortly after he retired, he was at UCLA, and it was a graduate aeronautical engineers were having a get together in a conference, and Ben was their keynote speaker. And one of the things he said near the end of his talk, and it was part of his prepared speech, he said, "We have the ability to take ET home." Now think about that for a second. This happened almost 30 years ago. A lot can happen in 30 years. And he said that we have the ability to take ET home, but our government will not allow that information to be made public. I mean, when you think about it, that means he's admitting that we have the ability to go across the universe in a blink of an eye. That's also how Bob Lazar described going from one point in the universe to the other. It was instant. There was no time interval. I don't know if there was a time interval when you came back. Did you age 15 years, or did your neighbors and friends and family age 15 years? I don't know. But he also said, I talked to Ben Rich once a quarter for 25 years, and if I didn't call him, he called me. And just before he passed away, I think it was 96 or 97, I called him up. He was at USC Medical Center there in LA, and he was there for surgery. He had stage 4 esophageal cancer, probably from breathing in all of the extremely toxic chemicals used on the solvents for stealth aircraft. But we were talking about our friend, our mutual friend, John Andrews, and whatever. And it finally got to the point where he said, Jim, we have things out in the desert. And he wasn't referring to Area 51, maybe S4, but he didn't say. But he said, we have things out in the desert that's 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. Now, I can comprehend a hell of a lot. And he knows I can comprehend a heck of a lot. So he said, if you've seen movies like Star Trek or Star Wars, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. I said, Ben, you want to expand upon that comment? And he said, no. And he had the nerve to die on me 10 days later. So it was really, he was quite a guy. He's the reason we got an A-12 Blackbird in Minnesota.
I remember you telling us that the last time you were on. But I mean, with that relationship you had with Ben Rich and him telling you that, how many people, Jim, have passed away holding on to these amazing, incredible secrets that the everyday public, like us hosting this show and our great listeners listening to this show, will never, ever know about?
Way too many. I mean, there's Michael Schratt was instrumental in interviewing a number of Lockheed people. Right now, he's in a position where he can't. I've been interviewing people for going on 50 years about spooky airplanes, things that go bump in the night. And it, probably the best story of first-person experience. I mentioned, I think Darcy mentioned earlier in the first segment, was Dave Fruhoff. And Dave was a retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Air Force. He flew the SR-71 for 5 years. And in late 72, early 73, while flying out of Kadena, Okinawa, it's a Detachment 1 of the 9th Strategic Reconnaissance Wing, he was flying a night training mission over the far western Pacific. And he was flying at Mach 2.7 at about 78,000 feet. And like I've said before, that's a sweet spot for the Blackbird. It's really, really fuel efficient at that speed, more so than going subsonic. And you don't thermally stress any of the systems on the airplane because the airplane heats up when you go above Mach 3. And just from friction and solar heating, the coldest place on the airplane is the windshield, and it's 475 degrees Fahrenheit. And the hottest place on the airplane is the inlets, lips, and the leading edge of the rudders, and that can get up to 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's just so at Mach 2.7. You don't have to worry about thermally stressing the systems. And about 11:30 at night, 3/4 moon off to his left, and he gets a glint of something metallic, 5 or 6 miles off to his right, 6,000 or 7,000 feet above him. And he thought maybe it was another SR-71, so he gets on secure voice and he calls the command post at Kadena and asked, "Dad, do we have another bird up?" And they basically told him, "Hey, you were in the briefing. You're the only one up there." He said, "No, I'm not. I have company." So he advanced the throttles and he did about a 10-degree bank as he's climbing. And about that time, his backseater said, "Hey, Dave," he said, "we have company." He said, "Yeah, I'm going to go take a closer look." And he said when he got to, he figured he was still a couple thousand feet below it and still a mile or two away from it. And he was hoping to get a shape of this object from blocking out the stars. But with his faceplate and the reflection inside the cockpit, he couldn't make out a shape. He said, but it wasn't a disc. It wasn't smooth. It had edges and it was reflective. So it was either metallic or it had a polished or reflective surface on it. And he said this thing took off at about a 30-degree angle of attack and left him in the dust like he was heading the other direction. And he estimates that he lost track of it between 180 and 200,000 feet, and that it left him going between 10 and 12,000 miles an hour is what he figured. So this 1972, 73. So, hey, let's fast forward to 1980. I think it's 79 or 80. And he gets out, he retires from the Air Force. He has a real high security clearance, the highest. And he applies for a job and gets a job as facility manager at Area 51. I mean, what a terrible job to have. And he had that job for almost 6 years. So he was going to find it. He was hoping to get to the bottom of this object that he chased in the early 70s. And one thing you don't do in a environment where everything is classified and everything is secret, top secret, or beyond top secret, you don't ask a lot of questions, especially when you first get there, even though you know most everybody in those various programs. But you go to the club after a hard day or a hard night's work and have a drink or two and you start talking. He said about a year after he was there, he started asking questions to the right people. He said, do we have something that was flight tested here at Area 51 that could outrun an SR-71 that could fly at 10 or 12,000 miles an hour up above 180, 200,000 feet? And everybody told him, said, well, it wasn't tested here. It wasn't built here. So what was it that he chased? as far as he was concerned, it was an unknown aerial phenomena, better known as a flying saucer or a UFO. And he was talked to, and he sort of backed off a little bit, but he was when Bob Lazar came to the forefront, he talked to some people that were still working at Area 51, and a lot of people just refer to it as the test site. Area 51 is sort of verboten verbiage to use in and around in a classified environment. It just makes people real nervous. And my email, the beginning of my email was Area 51. So I had people from the Skunk Works sharing my email, and the guys at the Skunk Works got a big kick out of it. But no,
Jim, I'm going to get you to hold on there. Darcy, you hold on as well. We're through 1 hour of this brand new documentary, Secret Space UFOs, Rise of the TR3B. James Goodall, Darcy Weir. We're having a great time tonight. We continue on with the excellent conversation that we are having tonight on the legendary Black Triangles. Thank you, Fapster, for that awesome super chat. Really appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much. Rafaela looking gorgeous over in the Czech Republic tonight. And who else has joined us late here? Eva. Zach. Oh, I should be able to pronounce this. That's almost Ukrainian. Zach Zakruski. Zakruski, yeah. There we go. And welcome to our channel. And who else is here? Slackmate, welcome to our channel. And I just want to give a quick shout out here, okay? Look, we have listeners who listen to our show and they listen to another show simultaneously. Okay, that show has one way that they do things in their chat room. We have another thing that happens in our chat room, which is a lot more free and a lot more, how can we put it? A lot less critical. So if you're one who jumps between the chat rooms, come here, sit back, relax, enjoy the woo, enjoy the fun. Okay, the other one, you can do what you want. Not here, though. We don't do that kind of stuff here. So
is that Discord or something?
No.
Where's the other?
No, it's a different show that we have mutual listeners. And a lot of times what happens is my listeners start here, they go over to the other place, they get tainted, and then they come back and use that same attitude here.
Oh, what's the other show?
Yeah, thank you, Darcy. Appreciate that.
Tell me what the other show is, mate.
They know what it is.
Message me. Goof on?
I'm not saying anything. I don't talk about that show on this show.
Okay.
That's a dead topic here.
It's a dirty, grimy show.
So, hey, Wizard Grin, how you doing? Yeah, I did get it right. Zach Zakruski. Perfect. Nice.
I don't know if she's listening, and she'd probably be listening on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
But, I have a friend that I think if I say her name, she'll probably she'll probably wet her pants and get all excited.
I'll tell you something I've noticed the most revoltingly vicious people that I've ever seen talk in a chat. Like literally people that probably when they look at themselves in the mirror, they try and smash it with their fist every day, are the folks that go on the Goof On show. They just are
Darcy,
the most ridiculous people I've ever...
I love you, but I'm not going to get into that conversation here because that just provides fuel for his fodder, and I don't appreciate him or the way he has treated us and the lies he's spinned on us. So I nip it in the ass right there, buddy.
Yeah, well, he's got to pay for what he does, man. It's ridiculous. He promotes hatred and absolute vile behavior in this community. And when I first came to this community, I was going out to UFO Congress. I think the first one I ever went to was 2003. And no one acts like that. People are good people. We all want to get to the bottom of what is true. But when you have to act like that, you have to go after people's personal lives. You have to go after their families. You have to attack them and call them words and just completely destroy them. It's like the most disgusting type of behavior I've ever seen. And it's not bully. It's psychopathic, narcissistic, evil bullcrap.
Well, I understand, Darcy. I got to cut you off there, man, because I also have YouTube rules that I have to play by, and you know that, right?
It's cool, man. I'm not swearing. I'm not calling anybody. I'm not pulling a goof on here. I'm just telling it straight. I'm saying it because if people are listening to this, you should really give your head a shake if you listen to this guy. He's not good.
I hear you. I know we've talked privately about that, and I'm not a fan, but many of my listeners are, and they jump between both chat rooms, and I can't control who they listen to, and they're free to listen to whomever they want. But on the other side of stuff, I know that we share many of the same opinions. And I'll leave it at that.
It's cool. I appreciate, you hearing me out.
I know it's frustrating. Very frustrating. So, we got about 1 minute left. Big thank you to Fapster, Michael, and Lord for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate it. And that's all good. It's all good. And let's see here. Jim, you doing okay?
I'm doing fine. I was just listening to the conversation. So
me too. Me too.
Yeah, I have run into those same types of people, and I got to the point. I've had some people destroy my character, and I responded. This is when I was the associate curator in Hawaii, and I got a 3-week suspension because of it. They didn't like what I said.
Hold on, guys. We got 12 seconds here. Big thank you to all the veterans who are tuning us in, all of our regulars. We love you. Great show so far. We're going to continue it on here in 3 seconds.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Ubiquitit. Ubiquitit is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and of course on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We are talking secret space UFOs, Rise of the TR3B, a great new documentary on those black triangles that people are saying and doing and filming on daily basis here is very, very weird. If you've seen one, you know what? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Darcy Weir is here, the film's director and creator. Jim Goodall, aviation expert, historian, author, damn good-looking guy. We welcome you guys back here. And Darcy, we're going to start with you here because you've got a little piece of information that you want to go over here as we bring it on up. Our YouTube side will see it, so we really got to go into description for our audience who is listening in on the radio here. What do you got for us here?
Yeah, sure. So this is the Manned Orbiting Laboratory. And Jim mentioned it at the top of the first hour. He was saying that this was a legitimate secret space program. Back in 1965, it was announced to the public, but I'm sure it was starting to become operational even before that. It was terminated in 1969, and this was a Air Force run space program. Am I right, Jim?
Yes. Yeah, it was what eventually became Space Command. So but it was an Air Force program from its start all the way through inception. Now they said that it was canceled. But there's been a lot of things that have been canceled and still flying, still operational. So it is. But I wanted you to know about it, because it started way back when. I mean, before it was post Sputnik, but it was really earlier than it was before we ever went to the moon.
Well, I think what's important to illustrate about this craft, this spacecraft, is that it was an Air Force endeavor, meaning the people that were flying.
Whatever you're funny, Peacock's got it exclusively. Bears beats The Office on Peacock. Stream every moment from Dunder Mifflin and explore bonus extras and exclusives. Plus, if you're looking for more classic hits, you can stream every episode of Parks and Recreation, 2.5 Men, and every season of SNL. In the mood for something brand new? Check out Peacock's original comedies, The Amber Ruffin Show, and Saved by the Bell. Whether you're craving a new binge or familiar fave, you can find tons of comedy hits on Peacock. Get started for free at peacocktv.com.
It and operating it were Air Force pilots. They weren't astronauts. And what people always forget is that it's not just NASA that's been going up into space. It's not just competing countries that have been going to space all these years. It's the Air Forces. It's the military-industrial complex that has had an interest in having a presence there too. So this is a very important part of secret space. And if you believe a story about a supposed, TR3B, a space shuttle, so to speak, or a space platform that was doing things, probably even maybe looking around the solar system secretly, then this would have been run by sort of Air Force or private personnel, not NASA.
Yeah, NASA's charter is by their charter they're not allowed to engage in classified programs. It's a public, open agency. So there's been a number of launches on the space shuttle which were classified. That by itself, because it was a NASA mission on a NASA space shuttle, really did go against their charter.
Yep, and so, I think you could even mention the X-37B. That is a autonomous version of, the space shuttle, something like Columbia or Atlantis, but no human personnel on board. And we know that it's operational. We know that it's run by the Air Force, but we don't know where it's been. We don't know what it's done. That's all completely classified.
And and it always lands at Vandenberg,
Vandenberg Air Force Base. Yeah. So then this is also Vandenberg is another place where people talk about UFO or anomalous activity all the time in history, and it makes you wonder: if we're just scratching the surface on things that are in the public, as long as you say that it's classified, we really don't know what's being done, what's being conducted beyond the public eye.
When you guys, when you look at this technology, that this manned orbiting laboratory that could be up there or could be not right now, I mean, how does this tie into how it got there? Would that go up on a shuttle? Would that go up on a rocket? Would it go up on one of these TR3B's? How would it get there?
That's it right there. It was a Titan 3B or a Titan 4C booster, which at the time was the heavy lift rocket for the United States military. Titan 3s and Titan 4s always had the external booster, solid fuel booster strapped to each side. And they were the ones that were designated to literally place into orbit all of your very, very classified, like the KH-11 and KH-12, Big Bird satellites. And this is, this is a fairly good size chunk to put into orbit. So you had to have a very powerful booster to do that.
That would be a heavy rocket.
Yeah, it is. It is. And to see one launch, because it'd be like the shuttle. Because you have the two solid rocket boosters on each side, you get an awful lot of smoke coming out. I mean, it's really quite spectacular. And one of the, I think it was a Titan 4B, it blew up after about 15 or 20 seconds off the launch pad. This is out of Vandenberg, blew up a number of years ago. And that is the most spectacular thing you've ever seen. I mean, it's a shame whatever they were carrying ended up in the Pacific, what was left of it. But
it's fun to see some of SpaceX's rockets explode too.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can remember as a kid watching the Vanguards go up and then come crashing down. The Juno rockets going up, and some of them not even getting off the launch pad. The Thor's getting up about 5 feet, sort of wobbling and then crashing back down. We've come a long way. I mean, Elon Musk has one of the Falcon 9 boosters, heavy lift boosters. It's on its 12th flight. Think about that.
Very reusable, yeah.
We take a Saturn V, dump it into the ocean, and each one of those engines, if you had to pay for one or someone gave you one and you sold it, you could live anywhere you wanted. I mean, they were really expensive, and to only use them once. Of course, back then they didn't realize that with new technology that we'd see in the 21st century, we'd have some guy who doesn't know doesn't know the definition of you can't do that, went and did it. And I admire Elon Musk for what he's done with space, what he's done with his electric cars. I'll never have an electric car because I go places where there's not a lot of charging stations. So
somewhere in the desert, eh?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, I want to get back to the TR3B here for a second because, sure. I mean, there is talk that this aircraft, there's many different sizes of them. Is there any tips or any numbers that we think on how many of these aircraft may be in the hands of the United States military or alphabet agencies, Jim?
Well, and when you have a silver bullet, as they call it, and maybe the TR3B is that silver bullet, when you have some incredible capabilities, and they're very expensive, they're not cheap to build. I mean, they're probably in the billions, much like a B-2 or even a aircraft carrier type of window sticker on it. You build enough to have a small fleet, probably 7, maybe 9, because at any given time, 1/3 of your fleet is going to be down for phase dock maintenance, mandatory upgrades. They call them TCTOs in the Air Force. tick order compliance, I think it is, or order. So you have 1/3 of the fleet is always going to be going through depot. 1/3 is your backup, and 1/3 is your primary craft to be using. And early on in the in the U2s, there was a relatively small fleet to begin with. I think the most U2s ever that were on in the air or on the ground at any one time when they were still flying, both the U2Cs and the U2Rs/Ss, under 40. So something as complex and as huge as the TR3B, and something that probably is in the multi-billion dollars to build, that I would say that the fleet is an odd number. It'll be 7, 8, 9 total airframes.
I would say, just off the back of that, when people say, well, how the hell is the United States building 7 or 9 of these massive craft that are costing maybe $1 billion, maybe a few billion each? Look at the United States recent defense bill that was signed into effect. Biden approved $777.7 billion for the military budget. So, and I mean, we covered in The Underground, the very first documentary that I ever made, that has, Phil Schneider and all that stuff. We cover the military's accounting practices at the very starting. And their accounting practices are such that if they want to write off, let's say $40 million, and they don't want to put on paper what that really was for, they can literally say, we bought $40 million worth of loaves of bread. Okay, good. All right, submit that. That's final. If any citizen in the United States, Canada, UK, you name it, in the free world, did the same sort of thing, we'd be thrown in jail and the key would be thrown away. So that's how these types of black projects could be absorbing money out of the standard military budget. And other people say, maybe even programs like the CIA's, supporting of the narcos and trading weapons and helping get drugs into the United States. That type of funding can also go towards black programs.
Gentlemen, I got some questions coming from our audience here, and I want to start off with Ann here from KPNL. She is asking, Darcy, if you were granted permission to speak to an extraterrestrial, but you had to cut off making any more films, but you would get all your questions answered, would you do it?
Hell yeah. I mean, I'm basically in the pursuit of the most, groundbreaking information in terms of the UFO subject. And if I found that truth, but I was given an ultimatum, don't do this anymore, hell yeah, I wouldn't do it anymore. For some folks out there, this subject is purely entertainment. It's like extraterrestrial entertainment. And that's kind of how the Cousins Brothers and Goofon work.
Oh, well, come on, bud. Well, no more shots.
I won't say any more, but I'll just say, I'm not here to purely entertain. I'm interested in this subject because I feel as if it's a form of activism. I'm passionate that we're not alone in the universe and that this is being covered up and there's an active suppression of the truth. That's what I'm interested in. That's, I'll say it to anybody's face, and I've said it to those guys too. They believe it's a hoax.
All right, let's get to Sunsaver's question for you, Jim. How do you feel about the work being done by SpaceX?
I applaud everything every time they launch something. I'm going to take a pilgrimage to Boca Chica, Texas. I want to see Elon's facility with my own eyes. I would love to be there for a launch. And I think once his first Pathfinder, was it serial number 20 is going to be the one going into space, going into suborbital. Then he's talking about 1,000 launches a year. And of course, and he's also taken over, I think, the old launch pad area, I think call it Area 46 or 42 at Cape Canaveral, where he's going to build probably a duplicate of his Texas facility. We were talking about budgets and monies and whatever a number of years ago, and I think it was the late 70s or early 80s, so it was quite a long time ago. The National Reconnaissance Office was cleaning out some, paperwork and whatever, and realized that they had misplaced or they had forgotten about a slush fund that they had for minor things, paper clips and cups of coffee. It was $6 billion that they had in their slush fund that they had forgotten about because it was too insignificant. So it costs money, but that money is there, and it can come from various different sources.
I like Ian's question here. What's the TR3B's role apart from playing the biggest game of hide and seek? Great question, Ian.
You want me to answer it?
Sure.
I think it opens our direct and volume access to space, and if it indeed is something that can fly in space and can go to the moon, it can go to Mars really fast, and just because it's hiding, there's a lot of things that our government here in the United States, they're not a very good steward of our money. They spend a lot of it, and they don't account for a lot of it, just like what Darcy said. And if it's that technically advanced over our competition, be the Chinese or the Russians, maybe that's why they're playing hide and seek. And if it's the aliens, the word is sort of filtered down from multiple sources. They keep saying that we're not ready for disclosure. You think the three of us here on this program tonight are ready for it, but a bulk of the population, and there's a lot of people out here in rural America that when you talk about UFOs or the TR3B's or things that go bump in the night, they get very, very frightened. And if, in fact, there's a landing anytime soon, and I think in my intuition or into my feelings, if you want to call it that, I have a feeling that time is relatively short between now and disclosure.
Right.
And hopefully it's while I'm still on this planet. And I don't mean I'm going to go to the Mars or the moon. I mean, I'm almost 77, so I figure I have another 20 years to go, maybe 30. But I want to see it. I want to see it happen. I don't, and if it's like Mars attacks, so be it. It'll probably be like the new Keanu Reeves, The Day the Earth Stood Still. That was a little bit more exciting than the original one back in the 50s.
All right, Darcy, I'm curious your opinion on that. Where do you think they're hiding these?
I think the answer is they're going to be anywhere that we can keep them underground or out of sight, and sometimes maybe even in space. I mean, if you look at a aircraft carrier that's run by a nuclear-powered engine, these things can run on the ocean for 70 years. if you can build a TR3B that uses an energy source that's exotic like that and is able to get into space, there's no reason that once it gets into space, it kind of stays there and operates for years. Unless you really have to go back to Earth and do something. You know, maybe even there's smaller ships that it can carry and dispatch, and those carry personnel sometimes. That's a possibility. So,
well, Darcy, you bring up a good point here, because I know I've seen 2 of them. Okay, and my sightings of these happen in 2013, 2014. And the one thing that I was very, very interested in regarding these was, as we got about a minute to go, we can carry it over to the next half hour, was, Darcy, they were 2 different sizes. The second one that I saw with some friends was way larger. Like, it looked like it was the size of a city. And the first one we saw didn't have just the 3 lights. It had these silver orbs connected by these orange rods all underneath the undercarriage of it. 2 completely different. So are there different models of this? Are there different sizes of this that they're hiding? Maybe ones that can carry astronauts or military into space? We got 20 seconds.
You just have to look at what we have in the public and think to yourself, do we have something else that's in the black, you know? And if you look at the X-47B, which is an autonomous flying triangle, that would operate on jet fuel, not anti-gravity. That's something that's out there. We have all kinds of drones that are flying triangles now.
Darcy, carry this answer over, because I want to get your answer to this. We have Darcy Weir, Jim Goodall, The Rise of the TR3B's, brand new documentary out. I love this stuff. This is what really scratches my back. I love it. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. All right, gents, we're clear.
Ta-da!
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we'll get to it in the next segment, but maybe the TR3Bs aren't based on this planet, even if they're man-made. What's your thought?
You mean like based on the moon?
Yeah.
I think the space program that was public was shrouded in tons of secrecy, and I think there's been a space program behind the scene that didn't require astronauts like we traditionally were using in the Apollo space program. So anything's possible. I mean, do we have a space platform? Do we have bases out there in space? Possibly. I don't know, but I think it's possible.
I mean, I go back to what Ben told me, that we have things that are 50 years beyond what you and I can comprehend. And he didn't. I don't think he said that to me to lead me astray or make me go down a blind alley or a dead end road. I think he was trying to tell me something, and he wouldn't expand upon it. And Ben was very, very famous for that. And he'd just drive the security people absolutely bat crazy. I mean, it's just because he'd throw in a tidbit, and you get the juices going, and it makes you want to go out into the desert and do some digging. Are UFOs at Area 51? I don't think they're at Area 51. S4, yeah. And Dave Fruhoff in a program I was watching last night, they actually, and I won't tell you who it was. I don't like one of the main characters, but Dave Fruhoff was talking about when he was facility manager. He saw stuff destined for a place called Site 4, which would be S4. So he's aware of the terminology of S4. I had another friend. He was one of the first enlisted guys on the F-117 program. On a down day, they were rewiring or doing something on the 117s. And he was out with a Humvee with a couple of other guys, and they went all the way around the Papoose Range, and they're on Papoose Lake, dry lake bed. And he said out of nowhere came a half a dozen guys in black utilities sporting M16s. And they asked what you were doing there. Let me see some ID. You don't belong here. Get the hell out of here. And they did. He didn't think anything of it other than the fact that maybe, and he was, and he's not a UFO guy, but he like me, he feels that we're not alone. There's just too much stuff out there saying that we've been visited. And then the reaction that people in power have of Bob Lazar. I mean, I've told you about the when I had my communication with a 2-star admiral because of Bob's W-2. There's just too many things pointing to the fact that UFOs are real and they're here, and I don't believe that there are any threat to us. If they were, we would have known it already. Yeah, maybe the aliens want to destroy the world, so they put Trudeau in Ottawa and Biden in D.C. I don't know, but it's something we have to. Something we have to take in consideration.
Well, you know what? It's something that is very interesting indeed in the way things are being played out. And if this aircraft has been under United States control for 50, 60 years, I mean, it would be unimaginable for many of us, Jim, to even know what else is out there. But I'm going to get you guys to hold on. Darcy, we're going to start with you on that question again that I had asked right before the break. I want to say a big thank you to Thomas, Michael ×2, Apollo 3rd, Slappy, Fap, Lord, and for the amazing super chats tonight. And we are really appreciative of the love and support that we get nightly from all of you on this show. Big thank you to all the veterans who have tuned us on in, and we are very thankful. So here we go, guys. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Appreciate each and every one of you tuning us on in. Thank you so much for joining us. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire, checking out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Darcy Weir and James Goodall. They have a new documentary out, and this is a beauty. This is one, if you got interest in a lot of the secret space program or secret flying technology, secret space UFOs, rise of the TR3B. And Darcy, right before the break, we were talking about the size of these, and a lot of people are seeing different types of these craft. You know, if we look at the make of the undercarriage, because that's mostly what we see, Darcy, is the undercarriage. We're used to the 3 lights, one on each corner. Some of them seem to have a large orb in the middle. Many others have other sets of lights. One of the ones I've seen had these really strange orange-silver orbs that were connected by orange rods. And it was very, very interesting. So with all of these different types of black triangles out there. How do we know which ones are ours, allegedly, and which ones are maybe extraterrestrial?
Well, that's a good question. If you talk to Michael Schratt, he'll explain to you that many of the flying boomerang or triangular sightings, like the Hudson Valley incident in, I think that was 1989, you even have the Belgian UFO wave. They all looked a little bit different, but what he said on the bottom of what looks like something we've made, something, I guess, similar to the TR3B, in it being a flying triangle, a floating, hovering triangle. It had what looked like radiator pipes all along the bottom. And you were just talking about orange pipes, right, Dave?
Yeah.
So that, if you look on the back of a refrigerator, you're looking at a cooling system, right? And that's the exposed part of the refrigerator that no one really looks at. But that's actively keeping everything cool inside your fridge. Same idea. If you're looking at all these pipes on the bottom of this triangle, you're essentially looking at a massive cooling system for this ship to run its anti-gravitic propulsion. And if you listen to the story of the TR3B from Edgar Fouché, it used a super cooled rotating superconductor at the center of its craft to create this magnetic field disruptor effect and make 80% of the craft's weight disappear so it could be propelled, right? These are all the same sort of stories we're hearing about. So some of these craft that we're seeing are definitely ours. And when you see things like that, like, screws and surfaces that look like they've been fastened down and pipes and, archaic looking machinery getting it to run. When you see something super sophisticated, I'll quote Bob Lazar here, he looks at something that has no exposed circuitry, has no exposed, function that you can tell, okay, that might be what it's doing, right? Everything about that craft was so alien because it was so futuristic. It was built down to the atomic level, meaning it probably had nano circuitry. It had nano sort of particle field disruptors to create this anti-gravitic effect. Whereas you look at the macro scale with the TR3B, the magnetic field disruptor in the middle, that massive rotating superconductor engine, would have been huge. It wouldn't have been small. And Bob Lazar said they would take this thing the size of a thimble and drop it into this chamber, and that was the element 115 that would start the engines, start the electrical systems for the sports model, right?
Right.
Everything about this technology is so advanced, it's like looking at magic because we are just not there in terms of fabrication yet.
But along those same lines, in 1962, if you happened to stumble onto Area 51 and you saw a Blackbird take off for the first time, you would not believe your eyes. I mean, it was so futuristic and so far out of this world as far as what everything else around it's flying. So, advanced technology doesn't necessarily mean it's alien technology. It's just that it's something that we have no reference point. So it just seems like they can't do that. That's just too outrageous. And when Lou Schock, the first guy to fly the A-12 Blackbird, when he saw it at the Skunk Works in Burbank in 1960, he looked at it and he walked out on the mezzanine and looked down on the production facility. He rubbed his eyes and he turned around and went back into the room and then came back out shaking his head. And he said, well, you call the name of this Cygnus and or ox cart when the real name should be El Salvador. He said, what do you mean, El Salvador? I said, because the first time anybody sees this thing, the comment is going to come out of their mouth or Jesus Christ. And in Spanish, El Salvador is the savior. It would be the same person. So technology can really blow your mind, even if it's conventional technology, and alien technology even more so.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, if we have these large triangles, I mean, if you listen to the Randy Kramers of the world, and I'll be honest with you, I don't buy his story at all. I mean, some of these craft can hold 200, 300, 400 people, let alone the crew that goes on there, and that's what's taking them into space and all this sort of stuff. That would be a massive, massive craft to put anywhere on the ground here on Earth. How does something like this slip by, Jim, if it does exist?
You operate it, maintain it under cover. Maybe they only take off at night. There's one of the reports when I was on top of Whitesides. It was 20 some odd degrees out, nice brisk wind. It's about midnight, and there's no lights on Area 51. About 1 o'clock in the morning, all the lights turned on. We couldn't make out what was there, and then the runway lights were on, and then the runway lights went off. So something either took off or landed that we didn't know what it was. So you find a place that's in the middle of nowhere. Area 51, fits that bill. If the new location is in the extreme northeast corner of Nevada, you go on Google Earth and all they have is just pixelated, various shades of green. You don't have any resolution in there. Is that because the government asked them not to show anything? So it's or the best, if you want to be in the middle of absolute nowhere, you go in the center of Australia. I mean, you're 1,000 miles from anywhere, and that would be a perfect place. And we have Pine Gap and Alice Springs in the center of the country. Pine Gap is their Area 51, if you want to call it that, for Australia. It's manned primarily by NSA and the spook people. So you operate out of a remote area. I mean, there's places in Canada that I'm sure no white man has ever set foot, or probably hasn't been within 200 or 300 miles of some of the places up there, even though it's been mapped. I know when I first was stationed in Alaska, I was in the command post. They had a map of the state of Alaska, but there was a big area in the middle that was gray, and it just said uncharted. And that was 1964. That was a long time ago. But there's places that may have been surveyed by satellite that we don't have any good imagery from, and people just say, well, it's too far in the middle of nowhere. When Tony LeVere and Dorsey Kammer went out looking for a place to flight test the U-2 at a request from Kelly Johnson, they went all over the desert Southwest trying to find a place. And when they found Area 51, this is before Rachel was founded and before the extraterrestrial highway was built, Kelly Johnson, when they flew out there the following day, he said, this place is too remote. Well, it's not that, it's still remote today, but it's not too remote anymore. But we find places like that to operate really, really spooky stuff you don't want the general public to see.
Okay, but I'm gonna turn the tides here on you guys here, and Darcy, I'll start with you on this one. What if these aren't human? What if they are extraterrestrial?
Like I said, I think there have been triangles caught on NASA cameras pre even, landing on the moon. So I think there are ET craft that are big flying triangles. But hey, drones might not only be a human construct, okay? What better way to travel the stars than to send an autonomous craft and beam back images and video and sound of what you found to your home planet? So some of the drones that are out there are probably ET. And that might also include black triangular craft, maybe even orbs.
Could be. Jim, what's your thoughts? Because I don't know. I know I'm like some of my listeners, including Jonathan Davies out there, who's a fellow UFO researcher and podcaster who I really trust. And he's strongly and firmly believing that this is alien technology and not human technology that we are seeing in these triangles.
Well, let me step back and about 4 years ago, I was still a docent at Kitt Peak National Observatories, and that's the largest concentration of optical telescopes in the world. There's 22 optical telescopes and then 2 radio telescopes, a 12-meter and a 25-meter. The 2.1 meter was used by Caltech for 5 years looking for exoplanets. And over the course of 5 years, in a very small part of our galaxy, they've cataloged 8,000 exoplanets. And just before I left, they had a gathering of all the astronomers, all the technicians at Kitt Peak, and all the docents. And it was a talk by one of the top astronomers from the National Science Foundation. And he had just returned from a conference where everybody that's looking for exoplanets got together and compared notes. And based on the best mathematical formulas that have proved to be successful over the decades in determining the probabilities of something, they calculate for every star in the universe, there's 1.5 planets. That's a huge number. And out of that incredibly huge number, they calculate that there are 2 billion, that's with a B, 2 billion Earth-like planets orbiting a similar size brown dwarf star such as our sun in the inhabitable zone with liquid water. And to quote Jodie Foster's character in the movie Contact, if we're the only ones, what a waste of space.
It's a beautiful way to end that. So in your estimation then, Jim, being around this subject for the last 40 plus years, is this type of technology really human made, or is it more extraterrestrial and maybe we got a hold of a craft in order to reverse engineer it?
Well, according to Bob Lazar, and of course I knew Bob before he went to work out in the desert, but according to Bob, at S4 there were 9 different, and they were different shaped craft that probably all used this, the same propulsion system, the Element 115. He was only assigned to the sports model, as he called it. And if you want a model of it, if you can find it, the Tester Model Company, in conjunction with Bob Lazar and the handiwork of John Andrews, actually did a 1/4-inch scale model of Bob Lazar's sports model. I thought I had one, but somewhere in my move, I must have lost it, or one of my wives threw it out. Not sure. But there's been UFO sightings since before the Wright brothers, so it's not as though some small little country and maybe in Central Africa had learned how to fly before Wilbur and Orville Wright. So they're coming from somewhere, and they've been coming here forever. Well, you find something on your ceiling?
No, one of my listeners in the chat room said, I wonder what Dave looks like when he's looking up at the ceiling, so I thought I would have a good laugh at that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, the stuff has been going on forever. There's petroglyphs and hieroglyphics with appears to be flying saucers or flying craft or something in the sky shooting a beam down, a bolt of lightning. Ooh, it could be a laser. It could be a machine gun. And that goes back as far as far back as recorded history. There's been sightings that could not be explained. And so am I feeling we're not alone. And I felt that most of my life, that we're not alone. And I don't know if you posted it, someone posted it, if you could be abducted by an alien, would you go? Would you go for a ride in a flying saucer?
Oh, yeah.
In a heartbeat. Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to ask them if I can bring my camera, and while you're at it, could you fix my hemorrhoids?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, Peppa. Peppa, no.
How old are you, Dave?
I'm 48.
Oh, okay.
He's got the hair. He's got
You've
the
got-
beard.
I have you by
Family. It looks a little different for everyone. For some, it's mom and dad. For others, roommates who feel like family. And for others, it's your significant other, their golfing buddies, your children, a high school soccer team starting lineup, and oh look, they're all taking you up on the offer to stay for dinner, really testing the limits of that phrase, the more the merrier. But no matter where you call home, Geico makes it easy to bundle and save on home and car insurance. Easier than making 3 frozen pizzas and assorted frozen veggies into a cohesive meal.
Progressive presents Forced Metaphors about bundling your home and auto.
In sports, 3 goals is a hat trick. And when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, you get a hat trick of great savings and round-the-clock protection. So you might be thinking, wait, that's 2 things. A hat trick is 3. But in this metaphor, great savings counts as 2 goals, and so does round-the-clock protection. So it's like 4 goals, and that's more than 3. It's basic math.
Forced Metaphors. Presented by Progressive. Bundle and protect today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.
almost 30 years.
I know, and you still look better than me.
Well, I'm not Canadian, that's why. Ooh.
Oh,
No. Hey,
honk, honk.
One of my
Get
first
truck.
One of my first loves lived in Burnaby. So I love Canada.
You've had many loves, my man.
Yes, I have.
So, Dave, what's your approximation, man? What do you
I think they're alien.
Black triangles, ours, aliens?
I think they're alien. I think they're alien.
Do you think we have any black triangles?
That I'm not sure. Here's my thing on this. I said, I can only go by what I have seen. I have seen 2 of them. One was massive, the size of a city, that I saw with friends of mine. And the other one that I saw with friends of mine was completely different. And we watched that. It was like a door opened up in the sky. And when this thing flew into the door, we could see it disappear from the nose on back. It just didn't blip out. It actually faded out like it was going through a door.
Yeah.
And the fact that though they were 2 different, I'm not saying, look, there's 2 different cars. There's 2 different of everything. There's multiples of everything on this planet. But when it comes to something like this, I just am not sure. And to me, it seems more alien because neither of them made sound.
Yep.
And
that's definitely something like, when I met with Michael Schratt, I actually met the same time with the Cousins brothers out in LA. And that was the first time I met them in person. And Schratt was convinced that all triangles are man-made. And he did a very thorough job of pulling out all these different papers, reports, diagrams of people's sightings, seeing the piping underneath, that we kind of described earlier in the show. And he is thoroughly convinced that most of the UFO phenomenon is man-made. And I disagreed with him, and I disagreed also with Third Phase, because they were convinced of the same thing. They lean a lot on Schratt's opinion, actually. They don't have much of their own because they haven't picked up a book and read something.
Buddy, we're not a podcast. Darcy, we're not a podcast. Okay, we are a live radio show, and our radio listeners do not know much about that. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just putting it out there.
Well,
this is all true.
I understand that, but
not a word of a lie.
I'm
just saying it relates to your question and my question. Is this alien? Is this man-made? For sure, some of it is man-made. For sure, some of it is alien. I'm just going to leave it at that.
The first time I saw an F-117, if I didn't know better, I would have said that was a flying saucer. You looked at it straight on, and I mean, it has, it has a fairly large, bulky fuselage and thin wings. From a distance, that's exactly what it looks like. And being it's faceted, it looks like it was changing shape. So just because something looks alien doesn't necessarily mean it is alien. But on the other hand, just because it looks like it's maybe we could build it, maybe it isn't. I mean, it's until one lands, has an emergency, and lands at a public open house at an air show, or it lands on in the Rose Garden during a live worldwide broadcast. I don't think a majority of the general public internationally would believe that UFOs were real. There's too many people out there that are terrified of thinking that that there's aliens out there. I mean, my gosh, the fact that Dave, you could be one. Who knows? I could be one. I know my daughter is. I know my daughter's from a different planet. She doesn't think like anybody I know, but I wouldn't trade her for anybody. She's my sweet girl.
Right on.
I gotta say one thing, and
we got 1 minute.
I know she's not listening, or she's probably asleep. But if there's a Sheila Claiborne, she lives in Southern California. If you're listening, dear, I texted you earlier and said I'd be on tonight, so I will tell her tomorrow, looking at YouTube. I think she'll enjoy it.
Darcy, 40 seconds. You got the last word here, buddy. Tell everybody where they can find Secret Space UFOs, Rise of the TR3B.
Sure. Amazon Prime, iTunes, Google Play, Vudu, and just go to my website, occultjourneys.com. That is my studio site. You can see all my films, watch a trailer, read a description, see the poster. And if you want to read one of Jim's 29 published books, Amazon Prime, look up Jim Goodall. He is the man. He is informed. Check it out.
Right on. Darcy Weir, much love to you, my friend, and I love your documentaries. You haven't stopped captivating me with all your hard work. Keep up the great work. James Goodall, thank you, my friend.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right. Coming up next.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Darcy and Jim. Coming up next, we're going to enter the swamp with Swamp Dweller. Bigfoot Rob is going to join us for the Bigfoot Report. And then we got Vancouver coming up, where we go across Canada on the shift. Great show, boys. Great show.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Give you a number of claps here. Claps.
Buddy.
All right, we'll see you both in Vegas, April 22nd to 24th.
And when you get a little bit more information on it, let me know.
Golden Nugget.
Send it off to the appropriate people.
Golden Nugget. Yep, we will be there. All right, guys, I got to go get ready for my third hour. I haven't even got my news done yet, so we'll talk.
Oh shit!
Talk to you guys soon.
Okay, good night, buddy.
Good night. Take care.
Bye.
Darcy Weir, Jim Goodall, everybody. Love them both. Love them both. Now, chat room, you play nice for a few minutes. Old Davey has to go to the bathroom. Be right back. Oh. Okay. Here we go. Oh, that's not what I wanted. There we go. I'm going to remind people once again that our chat room is for everybody. We do not condone shots from our guests at people in the chat room. We do not condone shots from our chatters to other chatters or our guests. All right? This isn't a democracy here. This is a Daveocracy. Okay, hard questions are allowed to be asked, but put them ethically. Hi, Chris Mo. How you doing? Okay. This show is friends with Darcy Weir. This show is friends with the gentlemen of Third Phase of Moon. Whatever happened between them is between them, and that has nothing to do with us. All right? My job is to bring on the guests. Darcy and Jim were fantastic guests on what they were working on, High Mystics Walk. And just like when Third Phase has their documentary come out, they're more than welcome on this show. Okay? We are straight down the middle, everyone. Don't choose sides. Now, what I don't put up with is people who treat our, or come in, or go to one chat room and then come in here and bring that same attitude into our chat room. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Let's just all be here, enjoy the woo, enjoy the fun, enjoy the knowledge, and we can all have a good time. Big thank you tonight to Lord, Michael ×2, Fabster, Sloppy, Third Phase, Apollo, and Thomas for the great super chats. And we thank you all for the love and support you have of this show. And SOR is Canadian. Thank you, Dirty Filth. I appreciate that. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ubiquitate. Ubiquitate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Let's head over to our good friend Swamp Dweller for another spooky story here on the Mighty SOR.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. So I want to start by saying that I'm not very good with English, so please forgive me if there's a grammatical error or typo. And this is also my first time sharing something here on the show, but I would like to share my creepy experiences from Japan in the future. Last December, we decided to take a 3-week vacation in Japan. We stayed at our friend's house in Ichihara, Shiba, During our stay there, my mom and dad experienced some bizarre and unexplained stuff, as well as myself. My experience. It was our third day. We went to Mount Fuji, which is far from where we were staying. It was around 10 p.m. My mom was fixing luggage. She always wants our things to be organized and such, and my dad was scrolling through his phone. I, on the other hand, was on the couch watching some random YouTube videos. Keep in mind that my mom and dad were together and chatting, and I was relaxing on the couch doing my thing when my dad suddenly looked at me with disbelief in his eyes and said, "Why do you keep touching and turning on my camera?" Which is a GoPro. He doesn't like me touching it because I'm irresponsible, apparently. But anyway, I told my dad, "What do you mean? I never touched or even went close to that thing." He shrugged and went back to his phone. The camera was beside him. It was placed on a box far from where I was sitting. Fast forward, when I asked about the incident, he told me that the GoPro kept turning on and kept on turning off. Also, the camera would keep on switching sides, which is weird. So, a week after, our friend, whose house we were staying at, which is right near the base of Mount Fuji, had to go out of town, but he said that we could stay at his home for as long as we liked. We are excellent friends with him, so there's no real problem with that. He asked if I would like to play some video games, so I said sure. He let me borrow his PlayStation 4, and at night, before going to bed, I would hop in for a couple of minutes and sleep afterward. I will try my best to describe the place. So the house is tiny, probably suitable for 1 or 2 people. When you enter the house, there's a little space where you must put on your shoes or slippers before you enter the house. After that is the kitchen at the right. On the left side is the dining table. In the north area is the living room. A sliding door divides the kitchen and the living room. The right side of the living room is in the bedroom and bathroom. I'm sorry if my description is not very good. It was 1 a.m. and my parents were asleep in the living room, and at the time, I was playing Call of Duty World War II in the bedroom. The PlayStation 4 and the monitor were set up near the door to see the kitchen area. I decided to close half of the door because it was freezing at the time. While playing in my peripheral vision, I kept seeing a shadow figure who kept on walking from the kitchen to the bedroom door. And there was also a time where I could see the shadow figure from the bathroom, which is just beside the bedroom. I felt terrified, so I decided to turn off the console and go to the living room to try to sleep. Another experience I had when we woke up early was because we had to go to Fuji Q amusement park, and the car we rented would be at the house at 10 a.m., so I was the last person to take a shower. While doing so, my mom told me that they had to go to 7-Eleven real quick to buy some drinks and chips because it would be a long trip. The store is about a 10-minute walk from the house. I was doing my business when I heard someone laughing from the living room. It sounded like a girl, and I didn't overthink it. I thought it was just my imagination or whatnot. Maybe even the neighbors, who knows. After a few seconds, I heard some footsteps coming towards where I was. I didn't know what to feel at the time, but all I could say is that it was this bizarre feeling. It just didn't feel right. I don't know about you guys, but I know the footsteps of my mom and dad, and the footsteps I heard were not familiar at all. Again, I didn't overthink it. I said to myself that it was probably just my mom. I turned off the switch and got out of the shower, and to my surprise, nobody was in the house. Probably a minute or two later, I heard my mom and dad talking outside the home, opened it, and asked if I was finished. I told them what happened, but they just smiled and continued with what they had to do. This next one is my mom's experience. So, around 2 weeks, we decided to take a day off from going out and stay home. We washed our clothes and cleaned the house. It was around 8 p.m. and my mom was in the bathroom brushing her teeth. I was in the bedroom playing PS4 when suddenly she came to me and said, "Did you say anything? Or were you watching something?" I said, "No, Mom. Why? What happened?" She ignored my question and decided to ask my dad, "How about you? Did you say something?" My dad said nothing. We asked her why, and she said, "I heard a man with an intense voice talking and murmuring things." My mom said, "She says the man speaks Nihongo," but she couldn't quite understand what the man was saying. It's not something my mom likes to talk about, but I do think she sees ghosts and feels them. I'll post some of her stories in the future. My dad also had an experience too. For 2 weeks we slept in the living room because it has more space and is more comfortable, I guess you can say, compared to the bedroom. My dad kept saying that he kept waking up at 3 a.m. and wouldn't be able to sleep afterward because he felt like someone or something was watching him, and it was eerie. Every day, 3 a.m. on the dot, my dad would hear noises coming from the other room, like the chair being dragged across the room, like someone was playing with it. The floor that this house was made of was wood, so you could hear the noise bounce off. He also claimed that he listened to the keyboard clicking, and it was coming from the bedroom, but my dad, being skeptical about ghosts, brushed it off and said he thought maybe the noise was just my neighbor from above. He told the story to the owner of the house, and our jaw dropped when he said, "Nobody's living above. It was just you guys here the entire time." After that incident, my dad became a pretty strong believer in the paranormal. We've heard a lot of paranormal stories from our friends there who are living in Japan, especially in the Mount Fuji area.
Wonderful, wonderful story. Thank you to Mr. Swamp Dweller. You can go to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads and check out his great channel. Make sure you hit subscribe. There's a reason why he has 250,000 subscribers. His stories are just phenomenal. All right, let's get to the Bigfoot Report. All right, filling in.
Peacock streaming the biggest sporting events, exclusive originals, and the latest movies. This February, we've got Super Bowl 56, the 2022 Winter Olympics, and the Peacock original Bel Air. Plus the new movie Marry Me in theaters and streaming Valentine's Day. Sign up now at peacocktv.com.
For Super Duke Sullivan from World Bigfoot Radio, we bring in Bigfoot Michigan Rob to talk all things cryptid, strange and weird going on in the world. Super Duke had a family emergency. He could not make it tonight. So Big Rob is here, who will be joining us in Las Vegas for our SOR fan party, April 22nd and 24th. I'm going to take his money at the poker table. I'm going to be honest with you. I am taking his money at the poker table. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Dave, I'm doing fantastic. And, I have to do a quick shout-out. I'm no Duke Sullivan. He has probably forgotten more things about Bigfoot than I'll ever remember. And I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to it, man. I do appreciate it, and thank you so much.
All right. Now, there's always stories coming in that you are picking up, along with very many others, trying to figure out what is going on in the cryptid world out there. As we're getting late into winter here, even up here, man, it's melting already. The snow is. And, we're getting closer to those dates, man, where we can head out in the forest, especially, up here above the 49th parallel and the northern and eastern states. Are you getting excited for it?
Oh, I'm absolutely getting excited for it. In fact, we've had on our show, and again, I'm not promoting our show.
Oh, go ahead. You're filling in.
The reason I know what I know today is, we do Brunch with Bigfoot, and on our show, we've had over 50 researchers and experiences on our show. And when you gave me the call today, I'm like, yeah, let me think about something current. And I came up with 2 reports, and somebody that we had on 2 weeks ago about a very current report that happened 6 months ago in Washington State. So what I'd like to do for our terrestrial audience and our people on YouTube, I'd like to start out first with a report from a researcher that we had on the show in Washington State, and I'm going to let it roll from there. You told me 17-minute segment, and I got 1,700 hours that I could talk about. I just realized, so thank you for that. Anyways, Mantra and Kyle are their names. They're researchers out in Washington State. Kyle was looking to move into a different research area, and what he did is he discovered a canyon. There was a huge lake surrounded by a canyon in the forest, and so he had made mention of that to a few of his buddies about, hey, I'm going to check this out for a new research area. Some of his buddies had said, hey, you know what, man, we don't like going in there. It's just bad things happen. It's strange. High strangeness happens. And Kyle on the show was elaborating, That's all what I'm all about. So he takes his boat out onto the lake surrounding the canyon. And what he did, Dave, and to our audience, is he has 2 speakers on his boat, and he has a recording of the Sierra Sounds.
Oh my!
From Ron Moorhead. So he's about 90 to 100 feet out from shore on the lake, looking into the forest in this deep canyon. He blasts the sounds. No response. So he takes his boat into shore, gets out of the boat, proceeds up to the tree line, up the canyon, looking around, ventures in, found a 17-inch footprint. He's excited. Ventures further in, he found some tree breaks, such. So he's excited. Okay, cool. He does this for a week. He goes out, he does the sounds on the water into the canyon overlooking the tree line. For about a week, nothing. Then, as he explained to me, he was getting a little frazzled, out of sorts. He says, well, it's a bad area, despite seeing footprints. Plays the sounds this last time. He had a return call.
No.
Now the call, yes, the call, Dave, was a mimic of the Sierra Sounds that he blasted into the forest. Identical to the recording from Ron Moorhead. So, he's excited, takes his boat, goes ashore. Gets out on the beach line, looks into the tree line. There's a person that happens to be on the beach near the shoreline and says, hey, man, I hear some footsteps. I hear something coming down from the canyon. He goes, we better get out of here. Now, this person was just an average Joe, not a researcher, not looking for Bigfoot, just happened to enjoy the beautiful scenery bestowed upon him in this area. So Kyle, he's gung-ho. He says, well, sir, you can do what you need to do, but I'm going after this thing, going toward these footsteps. Then all of a sudden, he hears what sounded like a herd of elk rumbling down this canyon. He stops, gets closer to the tree line. And all of a sudden, a Bigfoot, as he explains, popped out in front of him.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, just like you. This is live YouTube podcast radio, right? And I'm like, holy cow, I'm enthralled. Did you see it? What did it look like? He goes, Rob, before I tell you that, it roared and yelled at me. And I got frozen and paralyzed. I could not move. He goes, I thought I was over. My life was done. I'm like, okay, proceed. He goes, yep. I look at it. He goes, I seen a conical shaped head, a flat nose, but that was it. And he thought that his life had been done. The creature, the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, it returns up the canyon into the woods. He shakes out of it. And I was like, wow, one of the best stories I had ever heard. And, related to, and I'm not going to talk about my encounter, but, when I had an encounter, I was hit with an infrasound or some shock wave where I was paralyzed myself. So when I heard that story, I could relate, and I felt the guy. When the guy told the story, it was something that I truly believe in, because they are out there. And it just goes to show you that we're not alone in the forest. So that was that encounter story. And what I would like to do for our audience out here is I've got contacts, since I've been doing this for a while, with a research group here in the state of Michigan. And I've got a couple reports that I'd like to share, if you don't mind.
We got 5.5 minutes. Let's do it.
Oh, my Lord. Okay, report number 1. This is December 21st, Christmas time. A report from the Gumshoe Guy. I know him. He's been on the show. Person in Hessel, Michigan. It's up north. Something was walking on top of her house.
On top?
Didn't know what it was. On the roof. On the roof. It was snowing. Her husband gets out next day, sees these tracks up there, takes a picture. They're like 19-foot tracks on top of their house. Hessel, Michigan, up north here in the state of Michigan. And I get this information from a person that sends me reports now since I've been doing this. I get it every week. He sends me a report. So he called out some certain people. I'm not going to make names or make mention of the name. I think you know where I'm getting at, Dave. We got 5 minutes. I can't get into it. I wish we had an hour segment, but talk to that. Just in November of 2022 in Houghton, Michigan. Again, wintertime, snow on a person's porch. There were tracks on their porch. Gentleman follows the tracks to the wood line. Again, 18, 19-foot tracks, bipedal. 5. He had all the pictures. I have pictures of this. He has the toes, 5 toes. You could see the break in the snow. Excuse me. And I'm following up on him. He's going to be on my show in a couple months to tell us about that, what he's gathered from that. And the interesting thing is, Dave, in 2021 in the state of Michigan, 83 counties. I found this very interesting. In 2021, 83 counties in Michigan have averaged 15 Bigfoot sightings. That's 1,245 a year, Dave. I'm not swift with math. Divide that by a month. It's 41 a month, 1.3 per day. That's in the state of Michigan alone. So, Dave, if we're getting 1.3 encounters just in Michigan,
that's what is
going on.
That is what is reported.
That is what's reported. And you know as well as I do, a majority of people do not report this. So that number could be doubled. But if you just take those raw numbers with 50 contiguous states, 48, the lower 48, that's one big number.
That is a massive number because you think I don't know what the mathematics are on this, Rob.
Right.
Okay. But I'm going to say for every report that is filed, there's got to be at least 25 to 50 that aren't.
Absolutely.
At least. I mean, that is a lot of action. Is it mainly happening in the Upper Peninsula, or is it happening all over the state?
Well, Houghton, one was in the Upper Peninsula, one was in the Lower Peninsula. And this is a funny story. I live in a county of Wayne County. There's one report in Wayne County. And check this out. It was at the airport.
Weird.
And the airport around where I live is surrounded by, like every other airport, right? There's hustling and bustling. There's hotels, motels, all sorts of activity. However, though, the Detroit Metro Airport is surrounded by woods, and they can get pretty thick around there. So after doing this for a while, the more I learn, the less I know. Who would think that a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot encounter or report would be cited at the Metro Airport in Michigan? So it just opens up a lot of doors, a lot of avenues that people aren't even exploring. I mean, I know people that live in suburbs of Louisiana. I got a report, a Bigfoot peeping over his his fence, staring at him in the suburb. Now, of course, in back of him was a gully where a waterway is. And in fact, running through Wayne County, Michigan, we have a river. I do find that the reports that I read, the people that I have on the show that have encounters or experiences are around waterways almost 90% of the time. Detroit, Michigan, inner city, a report I received. The river runs through it. It's the ghetto. No one lives there. Abandoned, burnt down houses. There's been a report of a Bigfoot. There's been a report of Bigfoots in dumpsters at McDonald's in the inner city. The McDonald's are just still standing and not burnt down, by the way. So, I just love this subject. It's just, they're everywhere and anywhere. And I was just happy to come on and give that quick report. I could talk for hours, Dave.
I know you
when
can.
When you call me, look, I got notes, man. I got all over the place, man.
I love it.
So, you want me to come back on anytime to fill in anything. I've got a plethora, as you would say, of guests, of researchers. I can hook it up for you, my man. I am looking forward, man, to Vegas. Hello to everyone in chat, all my friends. Love y'all. I am Bigfoot Michigan Rob, BMR. That's Dave Scott, SOR. We own tonight, baby.
That's why I love you. Your energy, and it's attractive, my friend. It's attractive. And thank you for the report, Bigfoot Michigan Rob.
Absolutely, man.
All right, coming up next, we're going to hook up with Shane Hewitt and the Shift in Vancouver. Spooky stories and maybe some UFO Canada news. Then we got Shirky Poo's news. Thought of the Dave coming back right after this. That was awesome.
Thanks.
That was awesome.
Man, when you called me today, I was like half asleep. I'm like,
I could tell.
Who's calling? And I go, hello. I go, Dave Scott. I thought, and you said, hey, man, can you blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. I wasn't excited. I was like still trying to get out of the funk. I said, you mean I get to present information on the show and not be a guest? That's awesome. I like that better, man. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hope I did the show well for you.
You did fantastic. That's a great story. I do have to ask, though. I forgot to ask this.
Yeah.
The dude who was on the beach just checking it out, what happened to him?
I guess Kyle, the guy who was on my show, said, hey, he goes, I'm the guy, okay, the guy on the beach told Kyle, take off. I would stick around. And Kyle goes, I'm sticking around and investigate this. You should take off. And then he went right up the canyon into the woods and didn't see the guy. The guy was gone. And then, of course, he missed out. That'd be cool to have
1 sec, Rob.
2 people.
1 sec. Hey, Vancouver.
Hello. Yep. We'll be good to go for 36.
All right. We'll talk to you in 5.
Awesome.
Sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
No, so again, that would have been nice to have that guy stuck around because that would have been 2 people seeing a Bigfoot at the same time, which would have been a really cool report to include. But yeah, the guy was gone. My friend, my guest Kyle, hey, he was scared, but now he's still researching there, and I'm waiting back for more information. But that Washington State, I have a lot of guests from there, and they're out there. But they're everywhere, as I said. Those numbers I just gave you are mind-boggling. They really are. Just for my lone state, 1,450 reports.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, so.
My friend?
Yeah.
Got to say goodnight to you.
Hey, man, thank you. I'll do it anytime. I enjoyed it. Hello to everybody in chat and listening later on tonight in the archives.
We appreciate you, buddy. Love you, man. We'll see you in Vegas.
All right, love you. Bye. Peace.
Bye. Love me some Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Class dude. Class dude. Really is. Really appreciate him. Wow. This show flew by. Go to Vancouver here next. Okay. Let me bring this up here. All right, we've got about 2.5 minutes here. Where am I going here? Right here. Cool. Hello, the Michael Leger. We get her done, man. John Miller, how you doing, man? That was a great Bigfoot report from Rob. Very good. Him and Super Duke have just added an entire element that I absolutely love. Absolutely love. Hi, Body Tech. Good morning to you. All right, we want to say a big thank you to Lord, Michael ×2, Fabster, Slappy, Third Phase, Apollo, and Thomas for the amazing super chats. We really do appreciate the love on Spaced Out Radio, and I really do appreciate that. We're going into our final commercial break here. And, of course, a big thank you to all of our listeners out there, especially our regulars, hanging on out, having fun with us tonight. And, of course, all the veterans out there, you always have a safe home here in our chat room on Spaced Out Radio. So sit back, relax. Final 9 seconds. Here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. If you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We're going to head to Vancouver right now, meet up with the bearded wonder himself, Shane Hewitt, and the Shift right across Canada. Mr. Shane, how you doing?
Of the interior of BC, where it's all treed and spooky and Sasquatchy. To join us here at spacedoutradio.com is the place to find them online. Dave Scott, how are you?
I am good. How's your beard doing?
My beard is gone. It is time. Once my Santa responsibilities are done and the children have all of the gifts around the world, then my beard goes on hiatus for the springtime into the summer, and then it comes back again in the fall. How's yours doing?
You know what? I'm growing it out again. Growing it out. We're having a Spaced Out Radio fan party in Las Vegas on April 22nd to 24th, and my fans are like, are you going to have the beard on? So now I got to grow the beard. I have to. I have no choice.
Peacock streaming the biggest sporting events, exclusive originals, and the latest movies. This February, we've got Super Bowl 56, the 2022 Winter Olympics, and the Peacock original Bel Air. Plus the new movie Marry Me in theaters and streaming Valentine's Day. Sign up now at peacocktv.com.
This is a St. Jude moment.
Ashton was a high-level athlete, and in an instant, your world flips. And your healthy 5-year-old competitive cheerleader has a brain tumor. And the physician was like, your best option is St. Jude. Receiving treatment that was life-saving for our child and knowing that that treatment would be of no cost to us was a huge weight lifted.
Learn more at stjude.org.
Well, it does look handsome on you. I got to tell you that much.
Appreciate that.
So I'm glad to hear this. And I feel like if you're going to be like a spaced out kind of guy,
yeah,
I feel like there's got to be a little bit of little mystery behind the beard, you know?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we need to do. I got some good stuff for you tonight, by the way.
I like this. I'm excited for this. We're going into some UFOs and some spooky stuff, I'm told.
We are. We are. You know, a lot of times when I'm on with you, we talk about a lot of UFO stuff because that has been really the focus over the last couple of years in the news and everything, and people have wanted to have the updates with that. But I'm going to delay on that for a minute because, you know, I hope you don't mind me giving a shameless plug, but me and my buddy Merle have started a brand new YouTube channel called Canada's Great Unknown. And we have been getting a lot of letters and reports from people who've had spooky encounters right across the country. Now, we just started this channel about 9 days ago, and it is so much fun. And then what we do is we go and we actually type out these reports, and we read them and record them and put them into 3-story segments in order for our listeners all around the world that they can learn that there is spooky things and weird things happening in Canada, man. And some of these reports that we've got are phenomenal.
So this is ironic a little bit because I was having a chat here in the background and we were doing our planning for this here, Dave.
Right.
And they said, well, what do we want? What do we want to talk today about? What do we talk about? I'm like, okay, well, we love the conversation about UFOs and all these things that you talk about in Spaced Out Radio. And I said, you know what I want? I want to know more about paranormal stuff. I want to know more about mysteries. I want to know about stuff like this happening in Canada. So you've read my mind a little bit. Help me understand with what your new focus here is with this project. Do you have a specific example you can get us started with to understand what's going on?
So what we're doing is we are taking stories, because a lot of the stories we hear, most of them come out of the United States or elsewhere. We hear very few stories in Canada. So we're building this channel up where people, if they've had weird stories or weird encounters with ghosts or UFOs or Bigfoot or fairies or whatever, they can email us their details and their story of what happened to them at canadasgreatunknown@gmail.com. And then what we're going to do is we're building this channel where it is just spooky stories and weird, strange happenings around our country. So let's say, for instance, we have tourists coming over from the UK, and while they are touring over by Niagara Falls, they see some ghosts, and they tell us the story. We're going to read that. As long as it happens in Canada, we're going to continue with it, and we're going to put those stories on tape. So a lot of times what will happen is they will email us and say, hey, this happened to me. We read through it, and then if we have any more details, we'll actually recontact the person either by phone or by email and say, hey, can you explain what happened here? And they'll be like, sure, this would happen, and then we build it back into the story. So we want true accounts. Now, there's a lot of creepypasta type channels out there where the stories are fake, but they're very well written and journalistically fantastic. But ours, we want true stories. We want the stories that are out there that people like you, like me, like your audience and my audience are actually having around the country. It doesn't matter where. And we actually provide the location where these incidents are happening, so people can say, wow, you know, I've been there. I kind of know that area. So it's really cool on how it's coming together. I can give you a couple, Cole's Notes versions of stories if you want.
Yeah, well, I want to know some specifics because, you know, I lived in Niagara on the peninsula in St. Catharines. Brennan Kelly was raised there. He grew up there. I mean, that area is such a hot spot for so many stories.
Right.
That's a gate connection spot. There's so many around the Ottawa Valley, too. Where do you want to go?
Well, I want to start off with an interesting dogman encounter in Fort St. John. Now, I got this report a couple of years ago where this gentleman used to go up on the mountain, and he would, after work, working in the mill, and I'm paraphrasing the story here, he would go up on the mountain on the weekend to kind of look at the stars at night and look down into the valley and look at the city and, you know, just to relax. He would bring a couple of beers with him, you know, do some of the hippie lettuce. And this one time, like, he knows there's bears up there. He knows there's big animals up there. He said, but this one time he was sitting around his fire, had his lawn chair out, had the binoculars out, and he starts hearing this rustling in the trees. So that was his cue to quickly jump up and run back to his vehicle for safety, not wondering, you know, you don't want to encounter a grizzly bear. He turns on his vehicle. He turns his headlights on, and he sees where the bushes are shaking. And as the bushes stop shaking, this creature standing about 7 to 8 feet tall walks out on 2 legs that are haunched. It's got a human torso with a dog head. Like, it looks like a werewolf. This guy, half corked, takes off right down the mountain. Has never been back to that spot again. Refuses to go back. Went back to collect his chair. His chair was all shredded, but he has never gone back up there since. And it's stories like that and encounters like that, close encounters, that we love. We got one out of Vancouver, where this one is from a production assistant on one of the television show crews. As everybody knows, Vancouver is Hollywood North, where they were filming at the famous Riverview Hospital. Now, for people who don't know Riverview Hospital, it was one of British Columbia's largest mental institutions until it closed about 30 years ago. They were filming in a back room, and this production assistant had to sit up front to make sure nobody came in and disturbed the film crew while they were filming. And she's sitting at this desk. It has an old phone sitting at the desk. And while she's sitting there, pretty much, checking out her iPhone or whatever on the apps, whatever she's doing, this phone rings. And it rings and it rings and it rings. She realizes this phone is unplugged. So now she thinks the crew has set up some sort of joke. She goes back in there. She's like, hey, did anybody ring that phone? And they're all like, what are you talking about? So about 20 minutes later, the phone rings again. And while it's ringing, she actually runs into the other room where they are filming and stops the filming, saying, who is ringing the phone? And she goes all around to try and find another old phone that's connected to it, but there are no phones there. Nothing. So some ghost was ringing a phone right in front of her that was not connected to any type of phone jack in the wall or in the desk.
See, that's fun.
Yeah.
Those are fun stories.
Yes.
I love stories like that. I mean, those are the ones that are really, really fantastic to learn about. I mean, I remember when I worked in the White House of Rock in St. Catharines, I mean, that building had so many ghost stories in it that it's mind-blowing. I remember walking upstairs to the attic where they used to convalesce in that house, and there were stories about a maid in the house that hung herself on the staircase and stuff like that. And like all of a sudden I got goosebumps like all over down one side of my body, and it was only on one side of my body. And then I got upstairs, and they're giving the tour, and I working there and sort of just giving me a tour around. And they talk about, well, this is this is the room that most people don't like to come into. And I remember going, no way, man, not this room, that room over there, right? And it was just, you could feel it. It's hard to describe the experience of those moments. So, I get that stuff. So what's it again called, your YouTube channel? What's it called?
It is called Canada's Great Unknown. It's just beginning. We've got, I think, almost 260 subscribers, so it's literally fresh and brand new, but we're going to be pumping out content. We're trying to do brand new content 3 days a week, so if people sign up for it, they hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and they'll get notifications of when they are coming on.
Yeah. Do you have one more story you can tell us before we move on to the UFOs, or because
I do. Well, let me give you a UFO story that comes from a former member of the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Armed Forces. So this gentleman lives in my town, and when he served in the Navy, he served for 4 years, and one of his stations was at Esquimalt, CFB Esquimalt on Vancouver Island, and they were taking a 3-ship what do they call that? Some training mission up to Alaska. And he had the night watch on the radar from midnight till 4 a.m. At about 2 a.m., he picks his radar, the old school radars where they got the green line that goes all the way around in a 360. Nothing's happening. And all of a sudden, there is a giant blip that is come out of nowhere, and it is about 200 nautical miles west of them, traveling at 50 knots, which is like a Lamborghini on water at that point, in the same direction due north as this ship. They tracked this object, which on radar looked like a giant freightliner ship, okay, but there were no ships in the area. There were no helicopters in the area, and this was absolutely at sea level. And they watched this for 20 minutes on radar as it was cruising parallel with them up. Their ship, the Canadian frigate, the Yukon, was traveling at 30 knots. This thing is going at 50 knots. And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes later, it blipped out again. It was gone. It had vanished. They tried to see on their air radar if it went up into the sky, like maybe it was a helicopter or a low-flying plane. Nothing. It was not a pod of whales, and to this day, he's not sure what he's tracked. He knows he'll never find out, but he is convinced that they were tracking one major size UFO on the Canadian Navy ship.
It's good stuff. Why? We have cameras everywhere, though. It does come up for me, Dave. I really wish we could just catch something out. Like, let's get the evidence.
I know. I know.
Let's do the evidence. Like, I want to see it. Like, but I guess it always happens so quick, and probably good that we don't record things because we record everything else in our lives. That's for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the politics around the UFOs here, because there's some more conversation about what's going on with these governments talking, and stories like that one about the ship and the UFOs and all that stuff.
Well, I had a very long conversation with a couple of my sources in the United States recently who said there has been a brand new set of meetings in Ottawa with members of Parliament and members of the scientific community, as well as people who have worked in the UFO field for the U.S. government. This meeting recently happened about 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about what is happening with Canada's role in NORAD regarding UFOs. Because the word that my American source gave me is that Canadian officials in Ottawa have no idea what Canada is supposed to do in case UFOs show up. They don't know what the protocol is. Apparently, it is a giant mess. It's not like the U.S. where they have a task force looking after this subject, and they are trying to find out which angle to take. Now, I'm not sure if it was one party or if it was multiple parties that were taking part in this conversation. I do know that members of the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies, called the SCU, were involved. I also know that a couple of big-name gentlemen who I've been asked not to say their names were involved, but people in the UFO community would recognize their names as being very powerful leaders in this field. And I heard that these meetings are continuing. Now, with everything that's happening in Ottawa right now, I don't know how long it's going to continue, but for some reason, Canadian politicians behind the scenes, behind the record, are warming up to UFO talk, and it's about to get interesting.
All right. Well, I look forward to it, Dave. Congratulations on the new project. I love this angle and conversation that you are starting to create and add to the portfolio of Spaced Out Radio. I'm very excited to learn more about it.
Well, you can do that by going to hit subscribe on Canada's Great Unknown on YouTube, if you don't mind.
There we go. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Dave. Great to talk to you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, my friend. All right. That's Big Bad Shane from the Chorus Radio Network's The Shift, going right across Canada there. Hey, shameless plug for us on Spaced Out Radio for Canada's Great Unknown. Why not? Got to take advantage of it sometimes. Here we go. Let's get to Shirky Poo's news. Here's an interesting one coming out of Tempe, Arizona. Yeah, the old Home Depot not too happy about this. Apparently, this one store in Tempe lost $400,000 when an employee used play money to steal that same amount in real cash. It happened over 4 years, according to the Secret Service. The scam was discovered in December when the store looked into the money, which was purchased on Amazon, where it is listed as prop money. It's supposed to be used for party decorations and videos. The employee, Adrian John Pineda, was responsible for counting the cash in the store's registers and then putting the money in a bag that would go to Wells Fargo. It's alleged that he actually took the real money and replaced it with fake money. Pineda was caught on surveillance cameras allegedly putting the fake money from August 2018 to January 2022 inside the money bags. He admitted the plan to a manager on January 31st, according to the complaint. Now, he's going to be in hot trouble. Yeah, whatever that saying is. I love this story, guys. You're going to love it too. You know, who says that athletes can't be heroes for the right reasons at times? Here's one of them. Philadelphia Eagles safety Anthony Harris just made an 11-year-old fan's dream come true when he escorted her to a daddy-daughter dance in Texas. This is after her father passed away last year. Audrey Soap, a huge Harris fan, tragically lost both her dad and grandpa recently, so her mother actually reached out to the safety in hopes of having him step in to escort her to the school event. And, of course, the good news is Audrey's mom, Holly, knew it was a long shot, but after the Eagles were eliminated from the playoffs, she thought, well, Harris's schedule may open up, and you never know. Well, dreams do come true, and Mr. Harris made the young lady very, very happy. I just asked if he would come, the mom said, if he would be willing to come. And he said, not only will I come, I will make sure that she feels like a princess. Audrey said she got the big news a week before the dance was set to take place, and she was nervous. She messed up while dancing with Anthony, but judging by the pictures, it looked like they all had just a fantastic time. And, you know, it really shows that athletes can be human, and they're not just some, cherished star on the field or on the ice or on the diamond. I mean, that's just fantastic. I love stories like that. I think we got time for one more here. Oh, coming out of the Olympics here, 5 women ski jumpers have been disqualified at the Olympics, not because of drugs, not because of their skis or doing anything illegal. It's because of their jumpsuits. Yeah, anger and confusion overflowed at the mixed team ski jumping final in China after 5 female competitors were disqualified from the event by officials who said their jumpsuits didn't comply with the rules. The shocking outcome sparks tears and left athletes and coaches struggling to describe what they had just experienced. The disqualified jumpers represented 4 of the top ski jumping teams in the world: Japan, Austria, Germany, and Norway. So apparently, from Germany here, they said, we just pulled the crap card. That is how you destroy nations, development, and the entire sport, said Germany's Althaus, who won the silver medal. This is a parody, but I'm not laughing, said German sports director Horst Hudel. And the sport of ski jumping has experienced one of its darker days, says Klaus Bred Brathen, a Norwegian national team member. He's a team manager for ski jumping, says, for me, it is a puppet theater. The entire season, the suits have been an issue. I'm unbelievably angry, and I don't understand it. The controversy marred the Olympic debut of the mixed team competition. Instead of celebrating gender equity, a main priority for Olympic organizers, the disqualifications became the main topic of the day. Wow. That is absolutely brutal. And don't be this guy. Okay, well, he can't be this guy anymore. After about 24 hours after Tobias Carr and Timothy Sarver escaped from Tennessee's Sullivan County Jail, the 2 fugitives robbed a convenience store in North Carolina, then led police on a high-speed chase through 5 counties until authorities disabled their car. It crashed, and both escapees were pronounced dead following the crash. A 3rd inmate who escaped is still at large, but it just goes to show that you're not going to have a good day if you escape from jail. Thank you to Shirky Poo for the news, to Shane Hewitt from Chorus and The Shift for allowing us to come on and talk some spooky stories. Thanks to Bigfoot Michigan Rob for filling in for Super Duke of World Bigfoot Radio, Swamp Dweller, and our guest tonight, Darcy Weir, and James Goodall. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.
Progressive presents Forced Metaphors about bundling your home and auto.
In sports, 3 goals is a hat trick. And when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, you get a hat trick of great savings and round-the-clock protection. So you might be thinking, wait, that's 2 things. A hat trick is 3. But in this metaphor, great savings counts as 2 goals, and so does round-the-clock protection. So it's like 4 goals, and that's more than 3. It's basic math.
Forced Metaphors. Presented by Progressive. Bundle and protect today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.